Hello and welcome to this live video broadcast to discuss what an NDA government dependent on its allies will mean for India. It would appear that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is trying hard to project through the sameness of his Council of Ministers that nothing much has changed over the two previous terms when the BJP had an absolute majority. The individuals holding the key portfolios of home, defense, finance and external affairs remain the same, and the only meaty portfolio conceded to an ally, the Telugu Desam party, is that of civil aviation. Not a single Muslim has been included in the Council of Ministers, even as Ravneet Singh Bittu, who lost the elections from Punjab, has been included as a Minister of State. To make sense of the new government, I'm joined by Mr. N. Ram, Director of the Hindu Publishing Group and former Editor-in-Chief of the Hindu. Welcome to this special broadcast, Mr. Ram, to discuss the government.
It's a pleasure, Amit, to join this.
Mr. Ram, I just wanted to get your first thoughts. My sense is that the Prime Minister is trying hard to project that it's business as usual. Most of the characters in the cabinet and the Council of Ministers are the same. The portfolios are similar. I'm wondering what you think of this.
Yes, I think in light of the election outcome, which was a big setback to the BJP, it's still, let's not underestimate it. It's still the dominant party in the electoral system, in the political system in India, across India. But it's come down quite a few pegs, 32 short of a majority, and a very far cry indeed from the 400 target they proclaimed. It's never clear whether the 400 was for the BJP itself or the NDA, but let's assume it was for the NDA, with the BJP coming about 370, 380, and it's far short of that. So that's the reality that Mr. Modi and the BJP and their supporters and allies have to face. He will, of course, he from his standpoint, it's understandable that he has emphasized, as you say, business as usual or continuity. But although some of the people holding the people holding the key or the heavyweight portfolios remain the same, the ground beneath their feet has shifted profoundly. That's the reality. Because now this government is a coalition government. It was a coalition in name in 2014. It was a coalition not even in name in 2019. I mean, barely in name, because it was all run by the BJP and in particular by the Prime Minister's office, Mr. Narendra Modi and Mr. Amit Shah in particular. So the ground beneath their feet of all these heavyweights, the Rajnath Singhs, the Amit Shahs, the Naddas, the Shivraj Singh Chauhans, the Nirmala Sitaramans and the Jaishankars, plus the rest, Vaishnavs and so on, the ground has shifted profoundly, and that is the reality. Now, they're now dependent on three parties, I would say, in this order, dependent on the TDP. Mr. Chandrababu Naidu is a formidable politician. He's not really bought into the Hindutva plank. He's allied with the BJP, but he's also spoken against the BJP very strongly, as recently as February 2019. There's a video clip here. He says any leader is better than Mr. Modi, and so on. Of course, in politics, you may understand it, but he is not. The point is, he doesn't belong to them. He's playing his own. He's playing it for his own interest, and he wants to build Andhra Pradesh and build his party and his projects in Andhra Pradesh. And then you have the JDU, which, again, notoriously unreliable leader. You remember in 2020, October, November, he came in as chief minister as part of the NDA. Midstream, he jumped ship. And then again, he was one of the key initiators of the India bloc, the whole project. He was tipped to be its convener, didn't happen, and then he jumped ship. So, and then let's not forget the JDS in Karnataka. If you look at the numbers, Amit, it's very, very close between between the BJP and Congress in Karnataka, and the factor that made a difference is JDS, the Janata Dal Secular, spearheaded by Mr. Mr. Devagowda in the past, and today Kumarasamy, his son, is representing it. He's represented in the cabinet with a good portfolio. Karnataka, let's look at the figures. BJP 46.09%, Congress 45.39%, and JDS 5.6%. Without that, I think the numbers would have been even more precarious. So they're also dependent although the JDS got only 2 seats, its 5.6 odd percent was the tilting factor, the crucial factor. So this is a government now that it doesn't have a majority on its own, the ruling party, the BJP, and it's dependent on these 3 in particular.
So, Mr. Ram, do you believe, if we see the JDU's voting record in the parliament that has just gone by, I mean, on every contentious legislation, they voted with the BJP, whether it was the CAA or it was Article 370, reducing Jammu and Kashmir to a union territory. We saw that they sided with them. And as you rightly pointed out, Mr. Chandrababu Naidu is a formidable opponent, and he allied with the BJP because he has his own interests in mind. And as you rightly point out, JDS, though small in numbers, is still quite critical. But the question, I think one of the questions that people are asking is this, and which is what I want to pose to you. Will these allies act as a check and balance to this government, or will they give the BJP and Mr. Modi a free pass?
Okay, good question. Now, will they be able to push through the NRC, without which the CAA remains a dead letter? The National Register of Citizens, which is widely perceived, at least by Muslims, as targeting them. Mr. Naidu emphasizes the importance of minorities and reservation for Muslims as part of the most backward. Will the NRC be allowed to go forward? Question. I don't know the answer, but it's going to be a challenge. Secondly, what about the Uniform Civil Code, which was very much on their agenda? Will that be allowed to pass? I doubt very much. And what about the delimitation exercise? Because the gap between the Hindi-speaking states, the North and the South, has widened. It's very considerable. If you look at per capita income, industrial development, living standards, education, everything. The gap is huge. And will southern states, in particular Andhra Pradesh, be willing to have their weight in parliament reduced drastically? I don't know the answer to it, but it's going to be very difficult. Can state rights be suppressed the way the BJP government, the Modi government has been trying to do through the use of governors, through denying them, a fair share or just share of financial resources, and other resources as well? Is it going to happen? I don't know, but it is certainly going to pose constraints. What constraints we can't say. And here I want to refer to this speech by the latest address at the passing out parade or ceremony of the Swayamsevaks, several hundred Swayamsevaks, by Mohan Bhagwat, the supremo of the RSS. He has praised the BJP's performance, but he has, without naming them, rebuked them for the kind of intemperate attacks, the falsehoods and so on. Of course, he's also targeted the opposition, presumably the India bloc. But he's called for moderation and said, adversary, your opponents, it shouldn't be treated as enemies or adversaries. And has called for consultation with the opposition. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen, but it's significant, I think, that at this juncture, this voice has been sounded because they can't afford to ignore the RSS. I can't quite make out, understand the implications of it yet. It'll take time for it to be understood. But for Mohan Bhagwat to proclaim that opposition is not an adversary, that you've got to consult with them, there has to be decency in politics, and the use of technology, largely the hate politics that you saw in social media, largely generated, I think, by the Hindutva camp. There's no doubt about it if you just measure it. There's also the other side also contributed, including
Mr. Ram, here,
disinformation.
Since you brought up the RSS, I'd just like to, give some context to our viewers, which is that this comes after JP Nadda, the BJP president. He said in an interview to the Indian Express newspaper that the BJP doesn't really need the RSS. And if we see Prime Minister Modi's style, that he's all in all and supreme in governance and in approach, so presumably he would expect that even Mr. Mohan Bhagwat and the RSS are subservient to him, and that seems to have been a feature that we've seen in the last few years, that Mr. Modi really believes that he is bigger than the RSS. I don't know what your take is on that.
It's always been clear to me that Mr. Modi, in a sense, is not his own man, because he has been from his early 20s a full-time worker for the RSS, an adherent, and he's really worked in the RSS before. Unexpectedly, he was sent to Gujarat in charge of the BJP, and then became, through some unexpected events, he became chief minister, and then won big and emerged on the national stage. It is my considered view that without the RSS and those millions of Swayam Sevaks, volunteers, the pracharaks and so on, the large number who guide this, I don't think this government can survive. So they cannot really break away from the RSS, which remains, in my view, the guiding center, even the controlling center, ideologically speaking. Mr. Nadda, I read that his words quite carefully. He said nothing against the RSS. What he was trying to say is, initially we needed a lot of guidance, and now we have matured and we are quite self-sufficient. It was not a statement against the RSS as far as I could make out. That's my reading of it. So it's not really distancing themselves from the RSS, but only saying that we have relative autonomy because the RSS has allowed it, so to speak. That's the meaning of what he said, in my view. So I repeat, I emphasize this, that a BJP government, and in particular Mr. Modi, his power will collapse if the RSS withdrew support. Of course, they're not going to withdraw support because they've said he's their man, but they can guide this still. I don't buy into the theories, the arguments. It's arguable, you can say, that he has done away with the RSS influence on the government. You have many RSS people, Nitin Gadkari for one, and there are others as well, who have been schooled in the RSS ideology and all their ways. And above all, Mr. Modi himself belongs to the RSS.
Mr. Ram, here I'd like to shift the discussion a little bit and ask you, we heard all the speeches that Mr. Modi delivered, especially, some of them quite openly targeting the Muslim community. And we see that in the Council of Ministers, in the 72-strong Council of Ministers, which is headed by none other than Mr. Modi, we don't find a single Muslim in that Council of Ministers. And Prime Minister Modi from time to time has been stressing the slogan of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, that I want to develop everybody, I want to take everybody along. So do you think this slogan really rings hollow? Because if you can accommodate a defeated politician from Punjab in the form of Ravneet Singh Bittu in your Council of Ministers, surely you could find a Muslim or two Muslims in his own party who could have been given a job in the Council of Ministers.
Yeah, this is the naked face of Hindutva out there. Whatever they say, it's in the Hindutva party with project is Hindu Rashtra, or to use the vocabulary used by Western media, journalists or media, Hindu first policy. But it's, I think, a matter of shame that there's not a single Muslim represented in this coalition government, in fact. And that's something they'll find it hard to live down. in a country where Muslims constitute over 200 million of the population. Well, so let's say about 15% or a little over 15%. Census hasn't been done, but we have good estimates. Not a single Muslim in the union government. It's a matter of shame. But that is deliberate. It's understandable, carried to the extreme. If this question were put to Mr. Mohan Bhagwat, I wonder what he would say, because he talks about inclusivity, decency, and so on. But it is understandable but shameful.
And what is your sense, Mr. Ram? I mean, if we see the government, the way it's been constituted, the fact that people like Amit Shah, a lot of people were expecting there could be some changes. Do you believe that by keeping the principal ministers the same, with the same portfolios, and, whether it's petroleum, mostly they're the same with a few minor tweaks. Do you think that Prime Minister Modi should have listened to the message? Because finally, the fact that he didn't get a majority is that people are dissatisfied with his performance. Do you think he would have done better to make some changes, bring in fresh faces, and possibly those fresh faces could have led to a fresh approach in governance?
Yes, he could have done that, but that wouldn't be Mr. Modi, who sticks to his guns, and he would try to consolidate his position. I wouldn't underestimate him. He's doing his best to consolidate their hold in government. And part of the message is that I'm not going to dilute my program. I know what I want. It's a centralized, personalized style of governance. And everything is decided in the PMO. Deference is paid to some senior colleagues, but when it comes to key policies, it's the PMO and Narendra Modi with the assistance of Mr. Amit Shah, who call the shots. Now, as for Home Minister Amit Shah, he retains those portfolios, but I'd repeat what I said earlier, that the ground beneath his feet has shifted profoundly in carrying out the tasks of the Home Ministry, vis-a-vis the states, for example. We have to see how the coercive agencies of the state, the Enforcement Directorate, the CBI, I don't know if you can include the Income Tax Department, but the way they've been behaving suggests that they are part of the coercive apparatus of state. And then the police in places like Delhi, controlled by the union government and by the Home Minister directly, or ministry. So I think, is he going to be able to do the things that he did after 2019? Question. But I think it's going to be very, very difficult to carry on business as usual so far as the Home Ministry is concerned.
And what is your sense, Mr. Ram? Obviously, the opposition is energized. The numbers are, the Congress is now touching 100. Samajwadi Party, 30. Before I wanted to ask you one question, which, has been in my mind. What do you make of the BJP's defeat in Ayodhya? After so much that we heard about the Ram temple, the Prime Minister himself, going for the inauguration, all the hype and hoopla around it, in which, of course, the RSS also fully participated. What is your sense? What is the significance of the victory of the Samajwadi Party in Ayodhya?
I think it didn't play a major role, and I think there is evidence in Faizabad as well as in the whole of Uttar Pradesh that there was a certain protest against the misuse of the Ram temple, the symbol, and so on, and the Ram idol. The CSDS, the CSDS Lokniti post-poll survey this year, there's an editorial in the Hindu today on this, about plurality. What does it bring out? A drop in satisfaction levels with governance, in particular governance at the center. The stagnating popularity of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I'm reading from that. The resilience of regional parties. The rejuvenation of the Congress, which you referred to. And directly addressing the question you raised, the fading of Hindutva for marginalized sections in the Hindi heartland. And on the other side, the issues that bother people, that make them concerned, or that they factor in when they decide who to support, unemployment and the price rise emerging as key issues. And the rise of Rahul Gandhi in Uttar Pradesh. Not many people realize that when you ask about who do you want to be prime minister, Rahul actually has a 4 percentage point lead over Narendra Modi among respondents in Uttar Pradesh when asked who would they prefer for prime minister. This is what I mean when I say the ground beneath their feet has shifted, has changed, and so that means that the Ram temple was not a big issue, symbolically even in Faizabad, but also outside there. BJP is still the major force, the ruling party in Uttar Pradesh, but this alliance, both the arithmetic and the chemistry between the two leaders, Rahul Gandhi and Akhilesh Yadav, they have delivered big in Uttar Pradesh, without which this outcome would not have been possible.
Mr. Ram, just on the subject of Rahul Gandhi, I mean, people wrote him off, people made fun of him, called him a pappu, all kinds of names, were hurled at him. But he seems to have, stayed the course in a sense. And, his Bharat Jodo Yatra and the fact that in the campaign he was very visible. And in a sense, he didn't put a foot wrong. So what is your sense of the future of Rahul Gandhi? Because he still seems, he's not very keen on taking on responsibilities. Even the leader of the opposition job, which has been offered to him, he seems to be balking at it. And, even earlier, he gave up the job of Congress president. And in true Congress style, they wanted him back, but he's held off. So he clearly seems to have a mind of his own.
Part of the attraction of Rahul Gandhi's personality is that, he seems to have been a reluctant politician because he didn't seek it. He could have come in earlier. I remember after 2009, after the Congress did pretty well in that election, in the Lok Sabha election, Dr. Manmohan Singh publicly invited Rahul Gandhi to join the cabinet, but he turned it down. And that lack of ambition, some would say the killer instinct, was actually an attractive quality. But then once he came in, he gave it his all. And I think these yatras have delivered big because he learned things from it, but he also talked to people, and surely that has influenced the outcome of the election in several states and even regions. So Rahul Gandhi, but the other thing that appeals to people about Rahul Gandhi is that he has this clean image and he's courageous. He's somebody who says things that others don't. He raises it, and I think in a dignified way. Sometimes he may get it wrong, but he raises it in a dignified way. He respects leaders there, and that is why I was very, unhappy when the chief election commissioner revealed that we decided not to target the two top leaders, thereby establishing false equivalence between Mr. Modi, who openly targeted Muslims, violating the model code of conduct and perhaps even the law of the land, and Rahul Gandhi, who didn't do anything like that. So that's what false equivalence means, that you equate the two, and I don't know under what law or what scale of justice you can give immunity to the two top leaders, and why the election commission decided on that. All that was required was pull them up. Whoever steps out of line, whoever in their view violates the model code of conduct. Instead of that, they wrote to the presidents of the two parties in a very vague and general way. So I was very unhappy with that for the message that it sends about the election commission. To be fair, they've delivered an election. It's a considerable achievement. The EVMs worked well. This is not a stolen election. There was no level playing field, of course, but that's very, very hard in any country to have a completely level playing field in an election. But it was a fair election. It was a free. It was a fair election. The results reflected the reality of what the people wanted. So I think they've done that. But while doing it, they certainly showed some biases, a lack of spine, and this very odd statement that we decided to let off these two top.
Mr. Ram, since we have you today on this discussion, there's one thing which I've been wanting to ask you, and which is the following. A lot is being made about the growth of the BJP in the southern states, especially in Tamil Nadu and in Kerala. I would like you to address both these states. And what is your sense? Is the tide turning for the BJP in these states? Are we looking at the possibility of the BJP making major inroads into these two states, which have so far resisted the advance of the BJP?
Speaking about Tamil Nadu, yes, the BJP has worked hard. It's spent a lot of money in Tamil Nadu. There's no doubt about it, but it scored only 11.26% of the vote, and it's the NDA alliance actually is clearly behind the AIDMK, the main opposition party in the state. So while they raised it from a very low level, they came nowhere near the threshold needed to win even one seat in Tamil Nadu. The gap between the India alliance and the India bloc, rather, here it was in a full-fledged alliance, and the NDA was huge. But the AIDMK came second. I think the BJP came second in 10 constituencies out of 39 in Tamil Nadu. So it is some advance, but nothing to be boastful about. And Mr. Annamalai, who went all out, I don't know if it's a very wise decision for the president of the party who made so many boasts to test it so soon, but he did that and he came second, but a long way behind the winner in Coimbatore, despite the prime minister coming there, various others coming to campaign. So I don't think we should consider this a very major advance. It's from a very low base because they worked hard, because they spent a lot of money, because they concentrated and their top leaders campaigned. There was some gain, but it's far below the threshold, anywhere near the threshold above which you expect to score seats, if you like. So the AIDMK, in my view, remains the opposition party to reckon with, and the BJP is only a third. The NDA is only a third force here. So far as Kerala was concerned, Suresh Gopi, a film actor with a lot of influence, won. The left front only won one. Out of 20, the India bloc got 18. So that was a gain for the BJP. But again, it doesn't show that, the Prashant Kishores and the others who said that the southern states, they're going to really go up. I think they probably exaggerated what was to come. You can't, these parties who oppose the BJP are not, the regional parties are not going to be complacent. No room for complacency, but it's nothing really to cause alarm or even a lot of concern for them at this point. And you'll see when assembly elections come, when they come, the BJP will be shown up to be a very minor player.
Mr. Ram, we are running out of time, but one very quick question I had. Do you think that some of the India bloc parties should be worried that they could be targeted and defections might take place from those parties?
Yeah, they have to be vigilant. I don't think there's scope for any great thing. The next test will be in Maharashtra. I think that's going to be a crucial election. And if the India bloc, which has performed brilliantly in Maharashtra, perhaps exceeding the expectations, their own expectations, because the Shiv Sena, Uddhav Thackeray section, group of the Shiv Sena has done very well. NCP the Sharad Pawar NCP has delivered, and the Congress has done quite well, more or less equal partners, and they've done well. And if this success continues, I think you'll see a flow back the Shinde group, the MLAs, and so on, and even the MPs may go back to the parent Shiv Sena, headed by Mr. Uddhav Thackeray. So but it is going to be a contest, and much is at stake in Maharashtra for this. But I don't think you're going to see defections very soon, because there's no need for them.
Mr. Ram, I think the key takeaway for me was in our discussion was that the ground has shifted from under their feet. Well, one can only hope that people do realize that the ground has shifted. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining this special discussion on the Hindu. I do hope we'll have an opportunity to speak to you again. Thank you, Mr. N. Ram, Director of the Hindu Publishing Group, for speaking to us.
Thank you, Amit.